because that's happened. I have to say, I'm loving the, I love Eli and Walter, but I'm loving the female power on this board at the moment. So how did you guys, Gracielle, Bianca, Janae, even hear about us, I guess, was my question.
It was through Film Freeway.
Oh, cool. I'm glad that actually gets around.
Recording in progress.
It really does. I just searched up, you know, film festivals where they're more favorable to youth-led projects and like college level projects as well. And yeah, that's how I found you guys.
Very cool. Good to know. Megan, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. Adam, Ekaterina, how are you guys?
We're doing great.
Yay.
Adam is my wonderful co-producer and editor of my podcast.
Oh, that's Adam?
Yes.
Oh, hey, Adam. You're welcome to put your camera on if you want. You can partake. It's all good. But you don't have to, of course. All right, so let's get started. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here for our 2022 virtual creator panel. And if we can start by kind of going around the Zoom and introducing ourselves. I'm Nina Fiore. I'm the founder and director of Astoria Film Festival. I have dark hair, I'm wearing glasses and a gray jacket thing, and my background's foggy, blurry, I guess is the better word. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm so happy to be with you all here tonight. Walter, Eli, like to I feel like I'm in those squares. What were they called? Hollywood Square, something like that. Eli, you want to go?
Okay, hi, I'm Eli Berliner. He, him pronouns. My film is The Audition. Yeah.
Cool. Walter.
Hi, I'm Walter Montiel. My film was Who Drunk It? And I'm a Paraguayan filmmaker.
Very cool. Gracielle.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I'm Gracia Quesada, and I'm co-director of the House of Power, and I'm also presently a student at Nova Southeastern University.
Cool. It's like now you moved around. Mary.
Hi everyone, my name is Mary Fackett. My pronouns are she, her. My visual description is that I am a Lebanese woman with short dark curly hair, wearing glasses, speaking into a black microphone, and wearing black headphones. And my background is I am in my home office that has white walls and art of Marilyn Monroe on the walls. I am a disability activist, advocate, author, public speaker, and I am the host and co-producer and creator of the podcast, The Politics of Disability. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And which just won Best Interview Podcast. Yay. Bianca.
Hi, I'm Bianca Vucetic. My pronouns are she, her, they, them. I'm a student at Nova Southeastern University. I've worked with Gracielle and Janae on the documentary Halls of Power, and I'm excited to be here.
Which also won Best Youth Documentary, and Eli won Best Youth Drama, and Walter won Best 555 Film Contest. So sorry I didn't mention that, but going forward I will remember to. Janae.
Hi, my name's Janae. Pronoun she, her. I am from South Florida, Broward County. I'm one of the co-directors of the Halls of Power along with Bianca and Gracielle. And I am currently broadcasting live from my bedroom. There seems to be nothing in my background, but right in front of me, it's just like a whole jumble of like movie posters and things, et cetera, because I actually project movies onto that background.
Ah, very cool. Hence
It's
why
all
it's all
blank.
white. Yes, makes sense. Megan?
Hi, I'm Megan Kensel. I wrote the film Lob, and my pronouns are she, her. My visual description is I'm a blonde white woman wearing glasses. I'm wearing a tie-dye black sweatshirt, and I'm in my very cluttered looking apartment, which is actually where I shot my film in Astoria.
And is that officially a lob that you're
This is
sporting?
officially a lob haircut, yes.
So Megan's film was received honorable mention comedy, and it was about she summons her therapist back from the dead to ask if she should get a lob. Ekaterina?
Hi. Yeah, my name is Ekaterina, but for the sake of it being easier, it's Kate. And I'm a student at SVA, School of Visual Arts, and me and Anadia right here, we made our film Getting Freaky, more like Anadia's film, to be honest. I was helping to produce, and I was second ADing on it. So yeah.
Awesome. And Getting Freaky won Best Youth Comedy. Anadia?
Hi everyone, my name is Anadia. My pronouns are she, her. For a visual description, I'm wearing a blue and white striped shirt. I have curly afro-ish hair, and I have on a lot of colorful jewelry. Like I have a necklace and some earrings just because I like colors. And to match that, I have a white and blue squiggly SVA background because I am also a student at SVA. As Kate mentioned, I'm the writer and the director of Getting Freaky, but honestly, she's being very generous. She was working on that film with me nonstop. It really would not have been done without her by my side.
Very cool. Adam?
Hi, I'm Adam. My pronouns are he and they. This is my dog, Dusty. I'm wearing an orange and white shirt. I have a cream background. I'm a Black non-binary person, and I'm the editor of The Politics of Disability, which is a show that was created and it's hosted by and everything by Mary Fashion.
Disability advocate extraordinaire.
Yes.
And winner of the interview podcast, best interview podcast. Daniel, are you joining us?
Yeah. Hi.
Hey.
I joined a little late, so
No
I
worries.
guess we're introducing ourselves, right?
Yes, your name and what you worked on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Daniel. I use he or they pronouns. And I worked on Untitled Mom Doc.
Which also won an honorable mention for
Yes, thank you.
youth documentary. So welcome. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves and for being here. Just kind of going around, I think start with the basic kind of, where did you get the idea for your project? Walter, you want to go first? I mean, I know where you got your idea, but after you got the prompt, where did it go from there? And to be clear, Walter's film was part of, we started this year a 555 film contest, which was film that was 5 minutes or less, made by 5 or fewer people in 5 or fewer days, right? So that, and then we gave them some prompts. So
Yeah, we were all settled to shoot this thing that I had written, and it was great, whatever. And then someone in the group text is like, hey, listen, we have access to a property in Vermont. And we're like, yeah, we should go shoot in Vermont. Why not? and the whole thing didn't work. We got to the thing, and then we sort of just improvised over a weekend this story where what everybody was going to do, and it was just a really fun way to just kind of feel like we're playing music more than making movies. It's like I always envy my musician friends who get to like just pick up their
Jam.
instruments and jam. Like
Yeah.
and I sort of like that idea, and we kind of just went around. Like Lucian, he's our main actor, he's a comedian, so like I'm not funnier than he is. I just let him do his thing, and we gave him a couple of little scenarios, and they came out with gold, and that's sort of how it came about. If you have a location and you have some lenses, you're in pretty good shape.
Katerina and Nadia, how did the idea for the Getting Freaky come about?
So I'd say Getting Freaky actually started with a drawing that I had done, and it was absolutely different. I just knew I really wanted this kind of duo of two characters bouncing off of each other. But as like I started developing more and like hearing more and more people kind of talk about like their own relationship issues, but then also throw in listening to like one too many horror story podcasts at night, and all just kind of modge podge together until like Getting Freaky was made. I was just like, what happens like if your roommate was a ghost and you're also going through relationship issues? So that's how that came to be.
I've noticed since the pandemic, kind of a lot of shows now have ghosts in them. And I always wondered if there was a correlation, like kind of a subconscious psychological level. We all want to make sure we're still around because so many people were affected. You know what I mean? Like I just found it fascinating on a sociological level.
It's been super interesting because I feel like growing up, I was always very into like horror stories and the supernatural. And I even remember like in middle school and high school, like my teacher were like, "Oh, she's so morbid." I was like, "I'm really not. I just kind of like these stories." But now it's become the trend and it's super cool. And it's like, I'm glad that you guys see like it's not something making anyone morbid, but it's just genuinely fun to listen to.
Right. I mean, it's just a part of life. Unfortunately, like it makes us all equal, right? Like we're all going the same place eventually.
Exactly. And I think ghosts are trapped in places and we were trapped inside. Might as well find some way to enjoy it.
I like that. Interesting. Ekaterina, your thoughts?
I mean, this story really is Anaria's in the way that she wrote it, so I can't really put anything. But I would say that our teacher we worked with tried to change the story a little bit because she didn't like the ghosts and anything, and she really tried to push onto different ideas. But I think Anaria was very dedicated, and we are very happy that we did not change anything and it worked out the way it originally was supposed to. So
awesome. Eli, where did your idea come about?
Yeah, so right now I'm a freshman in college, and this is actually my dorm room, but this project started in 10th grade. I was lucky enough to take an elective in 10th grade called the Science and Math of Music at my school. And in that class, for like one of the projects we did, we looked at how we looked at the relationship between music and color, and how like people associate like higher or brighter colors with higher toned pitches. So I did that project, and the next year I took a class with, I have to give her credit, Chloe Smith, an amazing, the head of my high school. And in that class I read about Kandinsky, or Vasily Kandinsky, the famous painter who actually had synesthesia. And when
I was going to say, have you read about synesthesia? And yes.
And synesthesia is this thing where you associate sounds with different colors. And Vasily Kandinsky had this, and I read a book about that. And then I made it into a script. And then I was like, okay, now I want to make this into a movie. I used up all my savings I had from across high school, just like, doing jobs and things. I got my neighbors, my teachers to be actors. And I got my friends to like help with the crew, and we shot this film in this fall of senior year of high school, and then I edited it, and now we're here.
Awesome. Mary, if you could tell us how you got started with the podcast.
So about 4 years ago, I asked on social media if I started a podcast, would anyone listen to it? And I think I got a few yeses here and there. And my impaired speech has always been something that I've been bullied for and mocked. And always been told, well, no one wants to hear you speak, or no one is gonna want to listen to you speak. And it started as a child, even now, children and young people sometimes, as soon as I open my mouth, they don't want to make the effort, which I don't think there's that much effort in listening to me speak.
Not at all. Yeah, it's a
And
joy, truly.
thank you. And I had to learn to love my voice. And I remember someone said to me, Mary, your written word is great, but now it's time to use your voice. You
Mhm.
need to use your voice. We read your written word all the time, but you need to speak. It's important that you speak. Okay, okay. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna try this. One me, I said, I'm doing this. I'm gonna start a podcast. I didn't know how successful it would be, where it would go. You know, if anyone would bother to listen to it, but I knew that there were so many disabled people not being listened to, particularly while we are in a pandemic.
Mhm.
And we are there are
Yes.
marginalized voices that need to be amplified and need to be heard. And the one thing I say at the end of every episode is disability is political, disability is messy, and disability is not palatable, nor does it have to be. And
Mhm.
that was the essence of starting my podcast, because I'm not gonna be palatable, and that's okay. And you know, I went to Adam. I was like, I need a podcast editor and producer. Like, I can't really pay you that much. I'm a disabled poor woman. I really can't pay you that much, but it's just something you want to work on. And they were like, yes, of course. I was like, okay, thank you. So there we are.
Yeah, no, and it's so empowering, I think, for you to have done that for you, but then you've empowered so many others, myself included, with all of your wisdom. So it's just been so useful and so helpful to hear you. So I
Thank you.
appreciate that you went out on that limb, and because it must have been really scary, you know.
Thank you. Adam has their own story. I can't tell that story, but they have their own story.
Yes. So Adam, how did you meet Mary? How did you get brought on?
Well, I met Mary through an organization that I was working with at the time, and it was called Check Your Privilege. And we had
Yep.
partnered on a few posts together, and I was learning so much from Mary just about disability justice and disability culture. I'm fairly new to understanding myself as disabled.
Mhm.
So she was a huge part of that
Same.
initiation,
Same.
yeah, of that
Yeah.
journey. And so when she texted me and was like, hey, I want to interview disabled people and talk about important things, you know, I was like, yeah, definitely, because and the obviously like the money was like tertiary, totally did not matter, because it just listening to the show as I'm editing it and being a part of that process is so rewarding, and I learned so much through the process. So I'm just ever grateful to Mary. that she has me on her show.
I feel the same way. I'm grateful to Mary as well for all she does. Grateful to you too for editing. And you've had some amazing guests too. Like you're just skyrocketing. Like every time I see it, it gets more and more impressive. So kudos to both of you.
Thank you.
Gracielle, Bianca, Janae, do you guys want to talk about the Halls of Power and how you guys got started with that idea and what it's about initially?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. So all
What-
three of us were together at a documentary filmmaking class at Nova Southeastern University. And so halfway through the semester, we were supposed to find a topic and make a 10-minute documentary short film about it. And we ended up doing that with the Halls of Power. I'd been following Elijah Manley's work for about a year, but only at a distance online because I thought like, oh, wow, this is so interesting. You have a young person running for office, local office at that. And he had
In
already ran,
Florida,
yes, in Florida.
which isn't the most progressive place in the world at the moment.
Yeah, pretty much. But an interesting thing about Broward County, and another reason why we wanted to center like our community within the story, is that it's very progressive compared to the rest of the state
That's
and the
good to hear.
politics.
Yes.
But it's also like, you know, as you see within the film, even though it is very progressive, like not everyone would see eye to eye in terms of like the politics and, you know, what goes on in the community. So we kind of just wanted to bring all of those voices together within the film. But in essence, the main pitch was that we started off with Elijah's story and then we kind of just branched off from there without interviewing and meeting with Elijah and kind of just following him on his political journey. Then we wouldn't have met Raymond, who was directly inspired by Elijah's story, who ended up running for school board, or his friend Jesse Rubens, who is a political organizer within the community, or Laura or Stephen Meza, et cetera, et cetera. So kind of just meeting up with all of these community members, kind of just coming together for this one campaign to really make a change in the fact that they're all really young. It really just speaks to the message of the film about how like youth power, especially in politics, is very important for this moment in time that we are at in the country right now.
Absolutely. And also I love that it, you know, kind of the motivation he gave to so many other people to go and do this as well. Like that's really critical. Glacial, did you want to say something about it?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's been a pleasure working with Bianca and Janae throughout the whole process of production. And actually, after we were done with the class, with the documentary filmmaking class, you know, we decided, as Janae stated, to continue working on the project. And we actually worked on it for like the first half of the year, basically. So we finalized it like in July. And, you know, after that, we started applying to different film festivals, and of course we ended up in Astoria. But we're really excited, and it's just like being following Elijah and throughout the process of production, seeing things unfold, and then you know getting into the editing room and just adding details and research. So I mean the whole process was just a learning process, and we really enjoyed it.
Wonderful. Bianca?
Yeah, I'm not sure what else I can say on top of what Janae and Graciel mostly covered. And as Janae said and what Graciel mentioned, we did this because we were in a class together. And the class was just like, okay, do 6-10 minute documentary, you're good, okay. But after following Elijah and this goes in like field documentary, you know, the story just makes up itself. We see how he inspires the youth and how we record that youth, and it's just a chain reaction. Hence it inspires us not to make that 10-minute cut into a 40-minute cut, because there's so much more that develops because of the inspiration from Elijah Manley, the 23-year-old candidate running in South Florida, in Florida, as a gay, non-binary person of color. And it's insane how from that like basis that we had. Hey, let's follow his story. And how it got bigger both in documentary and in network size of just like how big the web is in youth who are already involved and how it continues to grow and spread.
I mean, I am very much encouraged by what you did, and I'm also encouraged by your generation's activity in politics. It's like needed like nobody's business. So I am it was great to see, and I hope to see a lot more of it. Megan, are you still here? I know you had to head out early, so I don't know if she.
I'm still here.
Oh, cool. There you are.
For a little bit longer, yeah.
So you want to tell us about your motivation?
Sure, yeah. It's funny you mentioned ghosts. I did have this idea before the pandemic, but then I had a new ghost idea during the pandemic. So there's something there.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was just kind of like, I was like, there's a lot of ghost shows, ghosts, obviously, but then there was like some Courtney Cox show where she's seeing ghosts. Like, there was just like, I was like, there's something up here. Something's happening.
Definitely. The idea was initially inspired by something happened with my family that made me start thinking about like down the line, my therapist isn't going to be around forever. I've been seeing her for a very long time, like a decade, and not like every single week for a decade, but
enough.
Yeah, like she's helped me so much to manage anxiety to the point where it's like I almost don't feel it in my everyday life anymore when it used to be severe. So I'm very grateful for her and the work that we've done. And I was like, oh no, like if something like this were to happen, that's really debilitating, and I don't have this therapist anymore, like how am I going to handle it? And that got me thinking about like I don't even really know anything about her because she's a therapist. She doesn't share her own life or her own self, which is appropriate. But I obviously have an attachment to this person, and that means I'm probably going to grieve this person at some point, or the loss of the time that we have together. So I just was sort of like exploring that idea, and I'm into like magic. So I thought it would be fun to play with the idea of someone who can't let go. And so at the silliest little thing that they can think of to ask help from their therapist for, they would call her back from the dead. And my therapist also in real life just happens to be like a truly funny human being. Like she's a character. So I just was inspired to bring her to life. It's not exactly like her, but yeah, I just had fun sort of channeling her voice into this silly little story about grief ultimately.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I put together the last block was just like a bunch of films I really loved. And afterwards we were at Tacuba and somebody said to me, oh, like, did you program that specifically as the grief block? And I was like, no, but I guess that I just gave away a lot about my inner world.
There was, yeah. And it's actually interesting. The week before the Astoria Festival, it was in another festival in New York. And it was like the only comedy in like a 2-hour block of very serious films that were mostly about grief. And I was like, I see how I ended up here. But it was a little surprising to be grouped with all of those like very heavy films.
Yeah. Were they actually aware of their planning? Because I was not.
It wasn't technically a themed block, but I think that there were a lot of overlapping themes in that one as well.
Nadia says comedic relief to the rescue.
Yeah, people definitely needed a laugh at that moment.
Daniel, you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yeah, the question, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the question just occurred to me. Has your therapist seen the film yet?
Great question. I don't think so, but I So I went through the whole process of like writing it, producing it, filming it, editing it. I didn't tell her. I was like, I told her I was working on something. But I was just like, this is so
I
awkward.
think she would get a kick out of it.
But I did eventually tell her. And I was like, you know, the character is like loosely based on you. It's also a little bit based on my mom. So I was like, it's not, you know, like, but
Commentary.
it was truly surreal to tell her this because the conversation was so similar to the
Wow.
conversation that happens in the film, where it's like, I was like, is this weird? Is this okay? Like, is this what transference is? Like, and she was like, it's totally normal and fine to like feel an attachment and to be worried about when I won't be your therapist anymore, given how long I've been working with you. And she was really funny, actually. She was like, don't worry, I'm never going to stop working. I love my job. And I'm thinking, okay, sure, but you're not going to be alive forever. But she was truly like, I'm going to work until I can't work anymore. And
You're like exactly my pride.
yeah.
Exactly my problem.
But it was really nice. And she honestly, like, she's very supportive in a way that is appropriate for a therapist to be.
Totally.
So she's not like, I need to see everything you've done, but I think eventually I will share it with her.
I think it's lovely. I think she'll appreciate it.
I think so. I hope.
I think so. Daniel, did you want to talk about your own film?
Sure. Yeah, that's a natural segue. I had a lot of similar questions in my mind, like realizing my mom won't be around forever and how is she going to be remembered? A few people have asked me if my mom was like sick or something, but she's perfectly healthy. I just
your mind was going there,
tend to
as
think
one
about,
does. Yeah.
mortality. And so the idea occurred to me, like, once she's gone, how will she be remembered? Oh, through her kids and, maybe my dad. And so I interviewed each of us, myself, my sister, and my dad separately, and decided to see what the similarities and differences were between our tellings of her life story.
And how did she feel about, has she watched the movie? Your mom?
Yeah.
And how does she feel about it?
She says she's flattered.
Aw, that's lovely.
She is also very worried about being seen as an anti-communist while living in Hong Kong, because that's kind of dangerous.
Right.
But it's American audiences, so I think she's safe.
Oh, fingers crossed. That would be bad. Just checking that I got everybody.
There was one more thing I wanted to mention.
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
This was also a school project, and I ended up devoting so much time to it that I failed another one of my classes.
I think that's very filmmaker-y of you.
I just
Nadia
needed
says that's worth it.
I needed to
Bianca
mention that
says
because
that sounds like a beautiful and interesting approach. So you have some fans happening here.
like as a neurodivergent filmmaker, I realize the school system isn't made for people like us.
No,
like
not
me.
at all.
And so I had to make certain sacrifices.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you realize it young enough that you can accept, you know what I mean? I think a lot of us kind of just felt broken and didn't realize it till later. So I'm glad you're realizing it now so that hopefully you don't feel broken. You just know you're different and lovely. Janae says she can relate. Yes, same. All right. So next question for y'all is, oh, sorry, Mary, your hand's raised.
I just wanted to tell Daniel that their education system is ableist. So just
Horribly
understand
so,
that
yes.
it is not you, it's the system, and the system is ableist. Was designed by ableist people. The infrastructure is broken. So just know that you are trying, it's like putting a round peg into a square hole. So I just wanted to impart a little of disability advocacy in there. I hope you don't mind, Nina, but I just wanted
Oh,
to.
no, please do. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that as somebody who dropped out of high school. I can really relate to that.
I mean, I begged my parents to homeschool me because I was so uncomfortable and so miserable. I did well academically because I just pushed and then became ill. It's a long story, but anyway, I understand completely. So Bianca says, sounds like a good documentary topic. However, school doesn't work well for a class project. Yeah. Yeah, right. Like, I don't know if the teacher would like be, but it's so true. It's so true. It's so broken. And I don't know if people, yeah, I could go on forever. So I won't start because I'll have you here for hours. I'll have you here for hours. But that's one of my favorite topics because, I beg to be homeschooled. I homeschool my son because he's disabled and I know he would be abused in the school system. And then I worked in schools for many years after I got my master's in education. And yeah, very broken. Very, very broken. So on a lighter topic, what's an interesting thing that happened either on set or during interviews or, just kind of one story that you would love to tell about the making of your projects? If anyone want to go first, I'm happy to, or I'll just do a down the line.
Oh, I was going to go first, but I'll let Janae go.
Janae, and then Mary.
Okay, so man, a lot of interesting things happen because when you're doing a documentary on an election, you never know what's gonna happen next.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So, and this was very different compared to our peers as well, because it was just for them, it was just very straightforward. These are the points that we're going to get, et cetera, et cetera. But for our film, like, we truly didn't know. I remember showing up on election night during the primary, not knowing whether or not like Elijah was going to win or lose the race. And he was a DLE candidate in that race. There were about 4 other candidates that were in that race. And we kind of just planned it out as like, oh, we're going to record the buildup to the results, and we would wait for the results because Broward County is very special in terms of we're always last to report the results for almost every single election.
Is it because the polls stay open later than most? Because that's also at New York City. Like no, Mary's like, nope, that's not it.
So for Florida electoral politics, it's just very weird.
Oh
in
gosh,
general.
yeah. Oh my,
So,
yeah.
voter suppression that's going on, and I don't even want to get into that right now. But usually Broward County is also the target for a lot of voter suppression schemes. But anyways, so we thought that the counting of the votes was going to take like even longer than an hour, because usually in other counties they usually call it after an hour. But we have a new supervisor of elections and they decided to do a lot of things differently. And so the votes were counted more efficiently. And they called the race almost immediately, which has never happened before. And I think for the specific, I'm sorry to get all technical about it because I'm also very much of an elections nerd about it. But
I'm here for it. I'm so here for it.
I think they counted the mail-in ballots as they came in. And so a lot of people who voted in the election, they skewed older. And so they also mailed in their ballots because we were still in like the lockdown for COVID as well. We were kind of just in and out of that. But anyways, I show up to the venue where the election watch party is supposed to happen. Me and Elijah are like the first couple of people there. And I'm sitting in the car with my dad and he's like, where's Elijah? So then I see him race out of the venue and he's trying to make a phone call. And I'm like, okay, that looks like a very important phone call that he's making. So I guess I'm gonna wait a couple minutes before going into the venue. So then 10 minutes later, I go in and then everyone else is also there. And then Elijah pretty much goes on stage and says, hey, everyone, I wanna thank you all for volunteering for this campaign. I called my opponent to congratulate him on winning. And then everyone was confused because they didn't expect the race to be called that quickly. So there kind of goes our plan for kind of just like recording the build up and then we have the speech, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a good thing that at the end of the day, we still had the speech for the event. And another funny moment that happened after the camera stopped rolling for his speech and after everyone kind of just kept chanting like, man, Lee, at the very end, Jesse, who's in the film, he came late. And so when he arrived at the location, he said, so when are we going to learn the results of the race? And so everyone kind of just stared at him. and then Elijah said, didn't you hear? I lost. And then Jesse was like, oh, we'll pretend that you won anyways. And then he gave him a hug and it was a nice moment.
Oh
But
dear. Yeah. Yeah.
I was
And you were there to capture it all, Bianca's saying.
Yeah, it was raining and like it was just not a fun time getting there. But it was all worth it at the very end. And I'm glad that he pulled through. I'm glad that all the other volunteers pulled through. And it was still a good night despite what happened.
Right, despite the loss. Mary?
So in keeping with the politics and election theme, I am currently on the Disability Council for the Stacey Abrams campaign
Oh,
here in
wonderful.
Georgia. And I work with, I forget Dom Kelly's official title, but he also worked on Fair Fight with Stacey. He's working on her campaign and he's the head of the Disability Council. And I interviewed him for my podcast. I said, oh, I would love to interview Stacey Abrams. And he said, oh, let me see if I can make that happen for you. I'm like, okay, cool. And so it was like, I was like, well, he's going to ask. That's a big deal. Even if it's never happens, the fact that my name is going to be brought up is very cool.
To our hopefully future president.
Yes, and then I get a text message from Stacey Abrams' press secretary, who was like, oh, I want to meet with you and talk with you. So I met with her press secretary, and then like I want to say, so I was like in, I don't know, like May or something, and then like a month, 2 months go by, and I get a text message saying, what is your availability for next week? I was like, why? Oh, so you can interview Stacey Abrams. I was like, okay.
Yeah, no, it's like, I remember seeing that. I was like, what? Like, how did she do that?
Yeah, and the thing is people don't understand. I'm like, this was a whole process to go through that, and like from start to finish, and like not knowing if this is gonna happen, and then knowing that it happened, knowing that you did it, and you can't say anything, you know, to anyone because her campaign had to okay the entire podcast. I had to send the questions prior to interviewing her, and then they had to okay, and I sent it to Adam. I was like, Adam, this has to be done like in like 2 days. Like we have to turn this around.
No pressure.
No pressure. We have to turn this around in like 2 days, and then we have to get it to her press secretary and make sure there's nothing that needs to be edited out because there were some things with Kelly that had to be edited out. So it was like a big deal. And then I just Nia, I know you remember, I just casually posted it on like a Monday, you know. Oh, here's
By the
my
way,
yeah.
I'm talking to
By the
Stacey
way,
Abrams. Like,
yeah,
what?
What? Here's my podcast interview with Stacey Abrams. People were like, what? Yeah. And I mean, and the thing that made the turnaround time the hardest was my podcast is accessible. So every podcast episode has a full transcript with the episode.
Yes,
So
yes.
I am having to not only
Which takes a
produce
lot of
and
time. I
edit
will,
and,
yes.
and do a transcript, and we have to turn that around in like 48 hours.
Wow. Wow. Yes.
Yeah,
That's a lot. That's
it
a
was
lot.
it was
So Adam
wild.
didn't sleep much that night.
They were a really good sport. And it was just from being, oh my God, this is actually happening to getting it done, being prepared to do it, and then I didn't actually get to see Stacey on camera because they were like, well, we can't have her makeup artist get her makeup done. So is it okay if she's off camera? I'm like, it's fine because my podcast is audio only, no big deal. Because I guess interview she's able to talk to her, but you get to like be on camera.
Right.
with-
Yeah. It's a whole different vibe when you see
So-
the face. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Fascinating.
there's my Stacey Abrams story.
I'm a huge fangirl of hers. So that's amazing. I really hope she wins, and I really hope she wins more of everything. Bianca, sorry, you were gonna add to Janae's story?
Yeah, it's really crazy. Stacey Abrams, I'd love to do like a documentary following her and her work. But for sure I want to add that Janae was like I've mentioned before, it was like Florida rain, gloomy nights, and she managed to capture it. And it's insane to like understanding how to plan something to get that kind of feeling compared to like capturing that feeling. We really, how it turned out, we really were able to use that as the main climax of the documentary. And without like that one stormy, Elijah chanting night, it's really insane how that changes the whole documentary. That's exactly the rest, the last 20 minutes of it, complete different feel because of that, that one night that we were able to capture because of Janae. And I do want to add just like fun facts, I guess, in our post work. We realized that, how wonderful these polls are and how the election itself was a special election because of, I don't know if you've heard of Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida.
No, never. I
No,
wish I
good.
hadn't, but sadly I have. So yes.
Yeah, no, it was definitely especially great to learn because as a filmmaker, I learned a lot just doing this documentary. Um, ever since we started, like for the like 8 months that we were doing it, and one of the things I learned was that this 20 at the time 22-year-old suit was actively suing the governor of Florida just to get a bunch of counties to get voices because there was no one representing those counties. And of course, they were underrepresented counties to begin with that probably Ron DeSantis does not want a voice in the
Yes.
house. So it was really inspiring to learn that, along with a bunch of other things that were able to shoot on scene, including the Pride Parade. It was a different experience in capturing it on the field compared to like a planned interview, sitting down and learning things audibly.
Yes.
So it was definitely a, a learning experience and a fun one.
I mean, that's what attracted me to it, was the fact that it was so active in its exploration. You know, you were everywhere. You were literally everywhere. Daniel, do you have a funny story? Or it doesn't have to be funny, a meaningful moment that happened during your creation of your project? Oh, hey, Gina, I just saw you.
Am I the last one to go?
Nope,
Okay, give me a little more time to think.
absolutely, love. Gina, since you just joined us, do you want to introduce yourself and your project? And we were just talking about, you can either tell us the inspiration behind the project, or we were just talking about kind of interesting moment that happened on set.
Yes, I'm sorry I'm late. I was shooting actually.
No worries.
So the inspiration for the project was the death of my mom and an utter grief, and the fact that we didn't have a funeral because the relationship with the siblings was so horrible. So, but it was really just how to process grief. And I made it almost immediately, and it was the answer to many things, not just the making of the film, but the community around the making of the film, and having to talk about my mom, communicate about her, and then bringing her to life. It was almost like a mini resurrection, if you will.
And so, you know, Gina's film won Best Dance, and it's basically a dance tribute to her mother. And Gina was the one I'd mentioned before, that somebody pointed out to me that the last panel was a grief panel. Gina was the one who pointed that out after the festival.
It was a great, yeah.
Did you realize? Like, nope, sorry, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
What was the other part? The other question?
What was something that happened on set that was memorable? Or during the creation, doesn't have to be on set.
Yeah. So I think I had mentioned it, that I had worked for about a month, just about a month, with talking about the project, trying to find dancers, and people would just, this team, the 4 people that made this film, was a total of, well, the 2 dancers are very well-known choreographers in Miami, and I had known them briefly, but it was such a surprise that people could feel and relate, and that just wanted to give of their time. I did pay everybody, but people really wanted to be a part of this project, and the surprise, I think that was a surprise as well. They just said yes. These 2 incredible choreographers immediately, before I could even explain the whole process, because the directing was going to be a commitment for them. They had to listen to stories, videos, pictures. They had to know the good and the bad and the ugly of my mother,
yeah,
to be channel her. And so it was a surprise how generous people were. And then the other surprise that I had mentioned was just that they could bring her to life, that there was such empathy and such incredible listening and processing, and to be able to, you know, physically manifest these 3 personalities of my mom, to that extent, that was a wonderful surprise.
It's a gorgeous film. I recommend you all watch. Eli, something interesting that happened during the creation of the film?
Yeah, there were a couple things. I guess I'll talk about the painting, because basically central to my film is this painting that the main, you know, the main character is a pianist, and he paints this painting, which is sort of central to the plot. And I had to figure out how to get a painting, because I am a really bad painter. I can't paint for anything. And so what I did was I did, there's a relationship between the music and the art in my film, and I composed a music piece that he plays at the end. So I needed a painting.
Oh, I didn't realize you composed that.
Oh yeah, no, that was a fun journey too. I'm not like a great composer, but I like to compose a lot. So I tried to compose the ending, and I got my music teacher at school to actually play it and help me and sort of advise me on the composing track. But yeah, I
Wonderful.
composed the last piece, and I went to my painting teacher at my school, Larissa, who was and I was like, okay, I know this is like a really big ask, but I have this film I'm working on, and I need like a custom painting type of thing. And I showed her, because I said before it was modeling off of Kandinsky in some ways. So we tried to make the painting very Kandinsky-esque, but it was also a thing of it needs to be the music too. Like the painting needs to embody the music. So she listened to the music over and over again, and she painted like in one night. And I was like totally shocked when I saw the end result. But she painted a painting based off of this composition that I wrote.
Wow.
Using
Wow.
the colors that like of the film, because there were like throughout the film I tried to put blue colors for when he was painting and breaking free, and red colors for when the main character felt like confined in his playing piano and with his parents. And what she did also was she merged the blue and the red in the painting, so it goes from, I think it goes from like blue to red from the top to the bottom, so like almost representing the character arc. And she just did an amazing job, and that was really fun. But then on set we had a finished painting before when we went onto set, but we had to recreate the finished painting. And
right, because a lot of it is him painting.
It's him painting. And John, I have to give a shout out to John Delightus, who did an amazing job. He actually won best student performance at the Astoria Film Festival. So yeah, and he did an amazing job. I have to shout him out. But we had to be like, okay, over there we can see there's a blue stroke that goes like that. So let's try to like replicate that. And I did not think it was gonna work, but when we edited it,
it came together.
And also a funny thing is I had my AD Will Parker, who also did an amazing job. He played because we didn't have the actual music on set, but we wanted to like replicate that atmosphere. So he played like garage band strings on the phone just so John could get the performance right.
Yes.
With each stroke, and that,
it's fascinating because I actually, when I used to teach art as one of my many things to children, and when I would teach Kandinsky, I would put on classical music and make them paint, and then put on rock music and make them paint. So like it did remind me of that. So it's interesting to hear that was your inspiration for it.
Super interesting. Yeah.
Nadia, interesting set story or creation story?
Christ, there was a lot. Yeah, there was a lot. It felt very much like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Where it was like all
accurate.
of a sudden, yeah. It was like, I always hear people be like, oh, that's the beauty of filmmaking. It's like it'll find a way. Like one of my teachers from my classes, like she was saying, like there's always a movie magic with film where it's like everything may seem like it's going to hell, but it's okay. It'll fix its way out. And it still holds true, but
that hell is genuine hell. Yeah.
Probably need therapy for working on this, but it's a good kind. But at first it was like getting things on board where it was like, okay, I need to narrow down my script. I had my teacher who just kept being like, no, maybe change it to this or change it to that. So having to go through several weeks of being like, no, I know that you're thinking that you're helping, because I understand a lot of times with teachers, it's like, oh, we're helping you. It's like, yes, you're helping, but sometimes you're really not. So
you're getting a lot of agreement from Bianca and Janae on that front.
I was like, I get it. I get where you're coming from, but can you do me a solid favor, and everyone a solid favor, and just let us be the artist for 1 second.
Right.
But like, let's step out of this being a class and just let us breathe. So then finally getting the script in place, then it was like, okay, gotta work to do this. How do we make this set that is just infamously ugly in our school look decent? Make this look like an actual apartment. So just scrambling through that, and then things were finally kind of coming together. Then 2 days before the shoot, my director of photography reaches out to me
and it's like nearly midnight. It's like, okay, we're gonna have a meeting. We're talking about
Yeah, it was less than 2 days. Less than 2 days.
yeah. So then next thing you know, he's telling me, I'm sick, I can't shoot. So I'm like, okay, well the crew's here, right? We'll at least have the crew. Like I'll try to do my best to DP. Crew's gone. Sorry,
no.
dude. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, and
Like-
DP had Gaffer with him and AC, and
Wow.
they're also gone now. And even
Wow.
our director was also like, sorry, can't attend. So the whole crew was gone basically.
2
And
days before.
not even 2 days before, it happened even the day before. So the call time was 7 a.m. or around so, and around 5 p.m. the day before, everything was going absolutely wrong. So our glorious part of it was that we were having a mental breakdown at 10 to 2 a.m. at Taco Bell, trying to figure out how we're gonna do this. But I'm really glad I have my wonderful friend from high school who is
Wow.
who is a gaffer, AC. He's like all technical things god in that way. And I just text him like, Jack, I need you tomorrow. And he was like, no problem, I'm gonna
Wow,
get
that's
everything.
amazing.
Even brought his friend who helped us with DIT, and not just any simple DIT, but let's say big boy DIT.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And all that. And so we had Gaffer, AC, DIT in the face of two people who were running around like crazy.
In a day, in less than a day.
and it
Amazing.
was just insane because like he was really working hard. That's why I was like last minute, because he was in the middle of the night, us having a conversation about the shots, how to condense it. Then last minute, boom, he's gone. Then as we're in Taco Bell, our production designer reaches out to us and says that like work came in and there's no way that they can call out. But like last minute, they're like, look, I can send all the production design stuff in a car. And we were like rushing. I remember looking at Kate like last minute in the morning, being like, oh my gosh, the taxi with the stuff. There's apparently a taxi now. She's like, you run, go, it's fine, I'll handle it, it's all right. Our editor came in on set and she just looked at me like, what do you need, dude? And she was like, I was like, we need, I don't know, sound. She was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I got you. And it was honestly insane. Like everything really coincidentally fell into place with this film.
And we both handled camera. Me
Yeah.
and Nadia. We were both doing
Wow.
camera while I was ADing and while
yes.
Nadia was directing.
It
So
was
it was
amazing.
That's a great
And-
experience though, because like
Exactly.
it does happen like that often in life, you know, where everything just falls apart before it comes together. Bianca's like, this is all too relatable, but congrats. And that feeling when you're finally done after all that hell is very rewarding, because not only did you survive, but you created something amazing in the aftermath, which is so true.
Very
She's also
much.
asking you to connect and giving you her Insta. So
Thank you. I'll definitely reach out. But yeah, you're totally right about like that feeling afterwards. It's amazing. Our shoot ended up ending at nearly 12 o'clock at night.
I think it was around 1 a.m.
Yeah, we finished shooting, but then we were just like pushing through, and it was insane because we were looking at our actors. It's like, if we need to reshoot on another day, it's fine. And honestly, like, I don't know how they magically got funneled over to us, but each and every single one of our actors was like, we'll stay as late as we need to be. They are even willing to like help and clean up. And it was honestly just insane. And it was that moment of sitting down after that we were all talking about how everything really, like I said, coincidentally fell into place. Our main actress, Wendy, she told us that she honestly was done kind of doing like certain projects for free because, you know, she's trying to be, develop more as an actress, and she's great. But she was like, this was the only comedy I saw. So I was like, you know what, I want to do it. It's funny. I'm so tired of playing like such every single serious role. So that was the one comedy I saw. I was down for it. Our other actor who was playing the guy who came in from the date, he was also telling us how, like, yeah, he normally doesn't do acting, but he was looking for something new. This looked funny. And I remember looking at his characters like, yes, this is him. And he happened to be a cinematographer. So even he was down to help us
Hmm.
out on set and like give us
That's
pointers.
always useful.
Exactly.
Oh
And
wait, Nadia, tell about Moises. How you found him?
Moises was found after a night of just fighting nonstop over how I really did not want to change Freddie's character. There were so many people who were kind of, and even my teacher being like, oh, well, maybe Wendy and Freddie should be a couple. And it's like, no, why can't a guy and a girl be friends just to be friends? Like that
Right.
makes it
No,
so
and I
awkward.
liked where you had him say, like, if I was alive, I'd be 50. So
I had
absolutely
to
not.
force that. I really had to force that because people were like, oh, well, maybe. And I was like, but he's a ghost. So how will that even work? I was like, well, maybe. I was like, okay, now I'm
Oh
going to
God,
end
no.
it. He is now 50 years old and she's 20. Now it's
Now it's
gonna
gross.
work
It's
out.
grosser beyond the
Yeah.
supernatural
But
instability of it.
I was just so bummed out and I was rushing to the train because I had a meeting with Kate later on about casting and I was so stressed, like, how am I gonna find someone who makes this work? I really don't know what I'm gonna do. And I just heard music at 14th Street in Union Square. Like I just heard music echoing throughout the whole station. So I followed it and there's this guy playing the guitar and he's just jamming out. So I took out my sketchbook and I was like, you know what? Like, this is such energy that I need right now. So I'm sketching, he's playing, I'm sketching, he's playing, and eventually he notices that I was drawing and he came over. He was like, hey, can I see? And I was like, sure, no problem. So we're looking it over and we're talking about it. And he was like, yeah, I'm an actor and stuff like that. I normally do theater plays and stage
So the
plays.
subway musician became your lead,
Yeah,
who also won Best Performance Youth.
yeah.
So
It's been so insane. And we were just talking. I was like, you're an actor? I'm casting. I'm casting for a film right now. And he sent in his audition, and it was just like, I was texting Kate immediately, like, Kate,
It was absolutely perfect. It was
yeah, no,
exactly what
he
we
was
were looking
amazing. Like
for.
just really stole every, like in a minute, you're like, wow, like very
exactly.
professional.
So everything with this film really happened to fall into place, even though I thought, I really, there was a moment where I thought maybe this wasn't going to happen. Maybe shouldn't be done. It was the first film since the pandemic, but everything really fell into place. Like everyone really came together to make
Like
this happen. It was insane.
I don't want to keep people too much longer because we're supposed to be an hour, but Gracielle, thank you. Nice to meet you as well. And Daniel, we didn't get to you, but also Adam wanted to say something. So I just wanted to make sure we had enough time. Daniel, do you have
Yeah,
your
I can go
thing?
first. Sure. Um, yeah, I mean, film is really all about the unexpected. I'm hearing that from fiction and documentary both. And
Definitely.
like my setup was really simple compared to like a fiction film. Like it was a Zoom call with my mom. And what could go wrong, right? But
Never say there's always stuff that can go wrong.
exactly. My Wi-Fi at home in Hong Kong is terrible, and we kept getting cut off. And my dad was getting visibly frustrated, and my parents started bickering as they do. And my mom had this brilliant idea of like, why don't you make it part of the film that we get cut off at
I think,
certain
yeah,
moments.
and I think it did work.
Yeah, and I think it improved it by a lot. Just that unexpected bit.
And
I
also the
almost,
friction that came out of it was very like, it just was very, made it very real and like in the moment.
yeah, I almost made my dad bickering part of that, but I didn't put that in.
It would have worked. I think it would have worked. Adam, you had wanted to add something?
Yes. Well, I guess so. We Mary got an offer to interview Stacey Abrams, and that was a huge deal, of course. Mary's in Georgia. Yeah, it was just super, super relevant, super personal. And just like an amazing opportunity to talk to her about her platform and talk about disability justice in general. And yeah, so I wrote something down because I was.
I mean, I feel like she's one of the more inclusive politicians out there, like truly all around encompassing,
Yeah.
inclusive,
Definitely.
Imagine how I was like, oh, Adam, this might happen. This is happening. Okay, here you go. We can edit this like today.
Yeah, no time to think about it. Just have to do it.
Like how quick you have to turn that around.
Yeah, it was a really quick turnaround. Definitely, I was up late doing that one, but it was so worth it. And yeah, I think it's always interesting, the parts that make it into the interview and then the parts that don't make it into the final episode. So it was just a great experience to kind of be a fly on the wall for that conversation.
Adam was like, when do you need this by? I'm like, tomorrow. Oh, okay. Tomorrow.
A very active and busy fly on the wall, I might add.
Yes. Yeah. Frantic.
If you all want to just give, I guess, go down the line and your advice to filmmakers and other creators, if you could do it in one sentence, what would it be? Mary and Adam, do you guys want to start us off?
Be authentic, be unapologetic, take up space unapologetically.
Love that. Adam?
Yeah. What comes to mind is very short, very simple. Just work together. And I think that just work together. Collaboration is, what it's all about. And that's how you get through it, is together.
Beautiful. Janae?
I would say always plan as much as possible, but be flexible at the end of the day, because you never know. And be patient too. Patience should probably come at the top, but yeah.
Yes. Gina?
That's sort of what I was going to say, strong pre-production, and then leave a lot of room for improvisation, and trust your intuition, and learn financing, learn film financing. I haven't done that yet.
Yes, we could all use financing help. Yeah, totally. Facts, Janae says. Absolutely.
Yep.
Daniel?
Find people you love working with and stick to them.
I love that. Yeah.
People are really important.
Yeah. Nadia?
I have to say, stay true to yourself and be kind to yourself. So at the end of the day, make sure that you love you and your work fiercely.
Love that. Love you and your work fiercely. Eli?
I mean, just continue to make things over and over again. Make some pretty bad films, make some awful films that you look back on, but each film is a building block in your journey, and just continue to make things because they will get better.
Absolutely love that. Yes. Kate?
I would have to say, don't be afraid and interpret it in your own way, because you can put it in, all the aspects of filmmaking, but really just don't be afraid. And if you want to do something you're not sure, do it.
Yes. I always try to say to the people I work with, especially the youth I work with, like, people don't do something because they haven't done it yet. Oh, I don't know how to do that. Well, once you do it, you know how to do it now, right? So it's like, it's just a matter of starting to do it. And all of a sudden now you've done it and you know how to do it and you'll get better at it eventually. But you always just have to take that first step and do it and go from there. Thank you so much, everybody, for submitting, for being part of the festival, for being part of this panel. I love all of your work. I really appreciate all that you're doing. You inspire me so much. And I'm just grateful for you all. So thank you so much for being a part of this tonight. Very special. You're all very
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And I will, this has been recorded, so I will be putting it up on YouTube, and then our interns will be cutting it up into little clips so we can throw you all around social as we get that done. So just FYI. Thank you so much. Much love to you all. Keep in touch, keep creating, keep being awesome and fierce and wonderful. Love you.
Mwah. Love you too.
Mwah.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you so
night.
much. Thank you.
Night.